The public obviously spends a day, they come in through the gates, they hear children laughing, they go on rides, and then they go home. And everything is okay with Playland in their world. But it's not.
In the shadows of New York City, along the shore of the Long Island Sound, lie millions of memories.
I remember being very little, and I can remember how excited I would get in the car coming up Playland Parkway once you saw the sign that you knew you were on your way to Playland, and inevitably sitting in traffic and just wanting to get there and having butterflies in your stomach because you were so excited. And then whenever we got here when I was little, the first thing I would do would be go on the whip, because that was like the ride I eased myself into. And of course the carousel for a little girl, everybody had their favorite horse, and I can always remember which horse it was I wanted. And being here with my mother and brothers and sisters, and my dad would just, you know, sit on a bench and have a cigarette waiting for us to all do, you know, have our fun and then come back. And
when we were all pretty much of that age where we were tall enough to get on the adult rides, my mother wanted to go on the little kiddie choo-choo train, and we all fought who had to sit with her on the ride.
It was pony rides. When I was a kid, they had pony rides here. And for me, if there was one thing I wanted to do, it was hang out with a horse and go on a pony ride. So that was, oh, I was so excited to go on the pony rides. It was great.
Generations of families have traveled here to Rye, New York for Playland's unique blend of entertainment. But this is no ordinary amusement park. It's the only one in America that's county owned, and it's even a national landmark. But uncertainty looms over this historic piece of property because for the last 4 years, county officials have been seeking something they sought nearly a century ago: change.
Prior to its creation, 2 smaller amusement parks operated where Playland is today. Unhappy with those conditions, county officials moved to make changes.
The county was cleaning up what had been there before. It was very honky-tonk, and lots of the newspapers were talking always about the drunks and the shysters, and it was very ticky-tacky.
Think about if you watched Jersey Shore on TV, that's pretty much the feeling, as that is what had happened to the Rye amusement park area. It was seedy, it was low class, it wasn't attractive, wasn't attracting a good quality clientele, even in Westchester there was very much this feeling that it was out of control.
Westchester County acquired over 200 acres of land, including nearby marsh. And in September 1927, the county tore down the old attractions and paved the way for a new Art Deco-inspired amusement park. County park commissioners recruited leading engineers and architects to build the site.
This was giving a new sense of decorum and civility to the area. They recognized the appeal of an amusement park, but they were going to make sure that it was going to be the right kind of amusement park.
Frank Darling, a world-renowned amusement park expert, was tapped to manage the park and plan its overall design. On May 30th, 1928, Playland, the nation's first totally planned amusement park, opened to the public.
Children representing the spirit of play and the youth of Westchester, I wish today on the part of the Westchester County Park Commission to present you with a key to Playland.
Thank you, Mr. Darling.
Thank you, Charles. Keep this key for wholesome pleasure.
Right here in Westchester, you could walk a boardwalk, you could take these rides. It was a magnificently laid out and built area where families could feel comfortable. And from the start, it was a hit. It was a hit. People were flocking to Playland in its early days.
From the beginning, it was seen as a community gem. Now, that it would satisfy the needs of Westchester County on many different levels.
Playland did more than satisfy thrill seekers. It included a separate amusement area for children called Kiddieland, places to swim, ice skate, and a lake to go boating, as well as a beach complete with bathhouses. 7 of the park's original rides, including its famous wooden dragon coaster, still operate today. Over the years, it's also become a reference point in pop culture.
I think it's time for us to move.
Great. You know how I feel about it. I like that place in Rye.
Right? Isn't that where Playland is?
The stark reality for Playland is that without a real reinvention of the amusement park that everyone here in Westchester loves, Playland would eventually die.
According to the Westchester County Parks Department, attendance topped 1 million visitors in 2005. Last year, they estimated less than 400,000 showed up. But the way the county gets those numbers has also changed. Playland used to be an open-access park. Instead of counting bodies, they counted cars, multiplying that number by 4. In 2009, the county gated the amusement area, implementing a pay-one-price fee, and began counting visitors at its entrance. But something else happened in the park's last decade of decline. Tragedy. 4 deaths in 4 years. In 2004, a 7-year-old Stephanie Diudon slipped out of a restraint on the Mind Scrambler ride and suffered fatal head injuries. 3 years later, in 2007, Gabriella Garin, a ride operator, was struck and killed by the same ride. The Mind Scrambler was removed from the park shortly after. In 2005, 7-year-old John Kelly Cassara died inside the Ye Old Mill boat ride. Investigators say he was riding alone when he exited the boat and somehow fell into the water, found pinned under a conveyor belt. A year later, a 43-year-old man drowned in the lake at the park after entering the waters, which is off-limits to swimmers. Ride malfunctions did not contribute to any of the ride-related deaths, according to Peter Tartaglia, Deputy Commissioner of the Parks Department. He said the park's plunge in attendance goes beyond the accidents or the weather.
That took its toll on the attendance, as well as our reputation as a safe park. And maintain that we are, but you also can't blame people for questioning it. The economy, when it tanked in 2008, you know, our park is a lower middle to middle income group of people that come, and now these people are now, including myself, are deciding, do I go to the movies on Saturday or do I go to Playland? It's not the traditional, you know, the other amusement park is our competition. It's you've got your entertainment dollar, it's shrinking, and what am I going to go and where am I going to go? I might love Playland, but maybe I won't go 2 or 3 times a year. Maybe I'll go once. So you had that going on. You also had, you know, our inability, because the economy went down, to put new rides in the park. When you don't put new rides in the park and you have the same facilities, you don't really draw new people, and you know, you could start to lose your base as well. So there's a lot of reasons for it, you know, and honestly, the pay one price policy that was instituted again, you know, about 4 or 5 years ago has not worked.
Making matters worse, the park is being weighed down by over $30 million of debt due to improvements made through the years. The park itself runs in the red to the tune of $3 to $5 million a year.
We're looking to get to a break-even point on our costs and eventually on paying off the debt.
Playland's future was becoming a real concern for Republican County Executive Rob Astorino. In 2010, he requested proposals from groups to reimagine the struggling park. Among the 12 that were submitted, Astorino handpicked one finalist.
More park, more play.
Sustainable Playland, Inc., also known as SPI, to manage the park for the county. SPI, a local non-profit group, plans to split Playland into 5 zones and has designed it for year-round use. Each zone will have its own operator, Among them, Central Amusements International, or CAI, the same group that oversees Luna Park at Coney Island, has been tapped to run the new Playland amusement zone. Last July, the county and SPI signed a 10-year assets management agreement.
This is not a transaction of property. We're not giving up property rights here. Somebody is coming in and managing the existing property on behalf of the county, and they are dealing with the day-to-day operations of Playland.
But before Westchester can hand over the keys to SPI, the plan needs approval by the county's Board of Legislators. Included in SPI's 80-page improvement plan, the addition of new rides, the elimination of an entrance fee, and the introduction of the Westchester Children's Museum.
But the most controversial part of SPI's plan, its proposed field zone. The construction of a sports facility with indoor and outdoor playing fields right here on this parking lot.
Playland Sports, the for-profit operators of the field zone, would fork over nearly $11 million of privately funded money to build the structure, which becomes property of the county after it's built.
It's a fantastic business if you find the right location, and this, you really need the demand. And in fact, it's possibly one of the best areas in the country to build something because there's so much demand around here.
According to a press release by SPI, market analysis by Playland Sports has demonstrated a strong demand for indoor and outdoor athletic field space, both locally and across Westchester. It also references a dire lack of field space, particularly for youth sports. Local resident Deirdre Curran is a part of an organized effort to stop the development of the field house.
I think sustainable Playland and Playland Sports need Playland for the land value and the sweet deal, but I don't think Playland needs their sports field and their field zone. No, I don't find any, I'm looking at it from the perspective of the idea was to save this park, and I don't see how this part of the plan is going to benefit this park.
At 82,500 square feet, construction of the sports complex means the park would lose 613 existing parking spaces. Curran believes that would hurt Central Amusement's proposed operation of the amusement zone.
Nobody can be successful at making that amusement park run if there's nowhere for the people to park their cars. People aren't going to come. You can't run a thriving business. When that park is busy, that lot is overflowing, and if they want CAI to come in and make that park successful, they need to give them the whole lot. Without that parking lot, this park is going to die, and nobody will be able to save it.
Some supporters of the plan, like Judy Krogan, think the impact on parking will be minimal for the park's future.
Well, I think if you're taking away the parking spaces because the park itself is a different configuration, you probably don't need the same amount of parking spaces.
SPI released a lengthy parking study last October. Analysts expect the park will rarely exceed capacity. But the study is based on figures from the last 4 years, when park attendance was at its lowest.
We have not worked out the parking management plan as yet, okay? Parking is, as we all know, is challenging.
As a concept goes, there's a lot of good in their plan. But certainly I understand the neighborhood concerns. I certainly understand the concerns about the size of the field house.
Area residents and the Board of Legislators are picking the plan apart to examine its impacts beyond parking and traffic, including environmental impacts in an area known to flood during heavy storms. Superstorm Sandy caused major damage to the park's main boardwalk when it roared ashore in October 2012. One of the park's 2 boardwalks was destroyed.
But it looked like fighter jets had taken the whole thing out. I mean, it didn't look like a high surge had done some damage to the woodwork. It looked like it had been blasted by bombs.
That will eventually be rebuilt. It hasn't been yet because we are looking at other ways to build that so that it won't take the direct hit that it normally takes because of the way the property is, the property line and the force off the water is just very difficult. And then, of course, there's the ice casino roof, which is being repaired as we speak. So if you add all of those together, there's somewhere around $20 million worth of damage at Playland.
Adding another layer of complication to the park's makeover, questions over who has authority to make potential changes at Playland, the county that owns the land, or the city of Rye, where the park is located. On March 20th, the city of Rye fired off a letter to the county's attorney asserting their control over the plans, saying zoning and environmental approvals need to go through the city.
Between the county and the town and everybody else that's got their hands in the pockets of it, it's just a waste.
In a separate legal dispute, former Democratic chairman of the Board of Legislators, Ken Jenkins, filed a lawsuit against Rob Astorino for choosing SPI as the winning plan without first getting consent from the entire Board of Legislators. For Curran, there's a good and a bad to the drawn-out process.
I'm glad that they didn't rush this through and do something rash suddenly without people having their input and being deliberated, because it's a huge undertaking and it's going to irrevocably change this park. But on the other hand, the longer that they deliberate, every season the park goes downhill a little bit more, and every year that they drag their feet and it's got to be put off to another season, it's going to be that much harder to bring it back, and it's kind of like nailing the coffin shut just a little bit more on this park. They need to make a decision soon on, getting somebody in here to fix this place up and run it properly.
Meanwhile, legislators continue to deliberate over the park's fate.
We have been meeting on this and will continue to meet on this every week. Yeah. This is not like something that every third or fourth week we'll spend a couple minutes on. Right. We are devoting every week to doing this. The asset management agreement was done between the administration and Sustainable. The Board of Legislators did not have a hand in that until now. Catherine is absolutely correct in that it's now in our purview, and things like this can be discussed, can be amended, but we just have the ball now.
Some major new developments today in the plans to revitalize Rye Playland. The nonprofit chosen by the county to take over the amusement park has suddenly suspended its participation in the review process.
Then on April 1st, SPI pulled out of the review, asking the county to settle the legal challenges before they continued their involvement in the process. A vote from the board on SPI's plan was set for this May, but that could all change. SPI says it's already spent $600,000 of its own money and thousands of hours on the project. The group may decide to stick around, or it could be back to the drawing board for the county and this cherished but troubled amusement park.
I'm tired of listening to the fairy tale that everything is just great when it's just the opposite.
Rob Astorino, meanwhile, has announced his bid to run for governor of New York State. In the weeks following SPI's suspension, he's been trying to strike common ground between Rye's mayor and the current chairman of the board, in an attempt to keep the SPI deal alive.
Some might say, why reinvent the park for the future? Let's just close it. It'll save a lot of people the hassle. Why might that be a mistake?
We would be tossing away an amazing, amazing place that has so much benefit to so many individuals.
The goal is for Playland to continue. If I can go home and say, oh good, it'll be here for my grandchildren, it'll be here for the next generation of people, then we've done our job, because it really is a magical place. So if that means that we need a partner, or if it means that we need to get out of the operation of it and have someone else come in and operate it, whatever that takes, I think that's really what the county, through the county executive all the way down to our department, has wanted to do.
Despite a hold of the review process, Playland will reopen for its 86th season on May 10th. In the meantime, main boardwalk repairs have been completed and the ice casino will reopen in the spring.
For now, one thing is for certain. This park has weathered many storms in its past, but it's forecast partly cloudy with a chance of fun.
I want this park, I want to still be able to stand here on the pier and talk to you in a public park 15 years from now. I want it to be a well-run, well-cared for historic amusement park that people love to come to, that's a destination in this area that you can't find anywhere else. And I want people to appreciate the history, 85 years of people coming here and being happy and having a good time. I want that to continue. This was put here for very good reasons, and it doesn't need to be reinvented or torn down or turned into something else. We've got a treasure here, and 15 years from now, I want to celebrate Playland's 100th anniversary with Playland thriving and being a great place for everybody to come to, be taken care of. I love this park. I hope it's here in 15 years.